Some of you might be wondering, how in the world does Hector farm so fast on Wraith King? Now, in this game in particular, he has a Magnus. So, you might be like, oh, that's the reason. But excluding that, let's see how he amplifies his farm on Wraith King, and is the best Wraith King in the world right now, hands down. I mean, he's so incredibly good. And the first thing I want to say that amplifies his farm, besides last hits in the lane, which is obviously a strength of his, he has 54 at the 8-minute mark, like, beyond good, but is his emphasis on cutting the wave. You notice he does this a lot in his games, where even when split pushing alone, he cuts the wave. And what this allows him to do is put pressure on the offlaner, but also drag the wave to large camps whenever he desires, right? So you notice in this case, he drags these two creeps over, which allows him to farm this big creep, right? And that extra bit of farm is what's going to get you to your Midas a little bit faster. And the second half I want to mention is his usage of skeletons. He almost always uses them when he has 3 or 4 in the early to mid game. Almost always. And what this allows him to do is just build up more with the skeletons, right? He gets more skeletons over time because he uses them to farm more. Or he just uses them to farm a lane. Regardless, I think this is the biggest separation between the majority of Wraith Kings and Hector. Now, the next half is allowing skeletons to actually play the lane. So, if we go back here and quickly look at this clip, you notice he pushes in the lane and has only 2 skeletons. Well, actually 3, I'm sorry. But he could push in this lane right now, which could allow him to get skeletons. But instead what he does is farms this small camp before the clock actually ticks, right? So now it's there again if he wanted to farm it. But he completely banks on the skeletons farming the wave, right? I guess he has full confidence in them getting the last hits. Big trust in the skeletons, but in general, I think that's a great efficiency play to make, where you just bank on the skeletons to get you the last in the lane and move on. Now, his team kind of makes some plays mid, and actually there were heroes bottom, so then he TP's top, and this is a big idea for a carry, getting across the map from where you were farming to kind of amp up your farm. And now you notice in this clip, he actually had the option after pushing in the top lane to go top again, right? He could have kept going, but he makes a heavy, and I mean a heavy emphasis on jungling this game. Now, he has Empower, which obviously helps him a ton to like go crazy GPM this game, but no joke, my man doesn't hit any lane creeps for a while besides what his skeletons farm, right? And I think that's like a big separation. He strictly never shows his hero in lane, like very rarely shows his hero in lane this game. And he even spends some time farming ancients, but really, like, I didn't think it was that possible to get this high of GPM strictly in the jungle, but he's making it very clear that it is. In fact, could have pushed down mid there, gives it to his Magnus, right? He's been in the jungle for the last 3 minutes now, and not that I think it's this simple, because he's made some great efficiency TP plays, but I don't know, maybe we'll have to think more about jungling in the future. And now one little cute play that he makes, I don't really know how much this matters, but he always Midases the small creep. Oddly enough, I feel like he just believes that there's not enough creeps in the jungle for him not to want to just get the overall gold from the big one. The gold is standard, whatever you Midas, you get the same amount of gold, so Midasing the small creep's overall gold is better, right? In some cases, you would want to Midas the large creep because it takes longer to farm. But on these like hyper farming cores that do a lot of damage, he has no problem Midasing the small ones 100% of the time. Now here, he actually does farm 8. So once he gets his relic and some of his bigger items, he does move towards getting 8. And I think it's because he simply just farms that fast at this point, but previous to that, he definitely was using them with 3 or 4, and I think that's like one of the bigger secrets. I believe the main general idea, besides his just great ability to understand when to TP, understand which camp he's going to next, which all of these little efficiencies really, of course, are what snowballs your farm, but his main ideas that I've noticed are that you spawn skeletons when you only have 3 to 4, you cut waves in the laning stage and after, and you drag them to camps. You use Midas on small creeps, and you strictly allow skeletons to push waves, right? Only now, at 1530, is he coming out to hit his first wave. This was the first one. He went into the jungle at 11, and has come out at 1540, and I think a lot of this comes down to the Magnus, but the second half is strictly so that he doesn't get caught out. He's reliably going to carry his team, and in pubs, this is a good formula to win, guys. Right? You might not have a Magnus reliably empowering you. I'm not going to lie. That probably won't happen. However, this formula of being the reliable carry in comparison to the one that is fighting and pushing the dangerous lanes, I think it works. It really works in pubs. So if you can get to this level and start copying, like literally copy what he does, copy it. Just do exactly what he's doing and what I'm saying here. And I think you're going to have success in your games. All right, we're back with Game 3 of the infamous versus newbie series. And the next thing I want to point out before we move on to team fighting is Hector's TP play. He does this a lot, and it's something I'm definitely not used to seeing. So after farming these camps, right, he clears them out. Pretty typical, nothing too special. But he instantly TP's bottom after farming the last camp. right? And what I see here is that his skeletons are going to push in the wave. Actually, they're going to take this jungle camp first, if you see on the minimap, and then they're going to take the wave, and he puts a complete emphasis on farming the bottom side triangle, right? And this TP play really allows him to amp his efficiency in general, and it does commit TP, which is something usually you won't hear recommended to carry players because you want the option to get to the other side of the map, but he is solely focused on efficiency. There is no concern about okay, I shouldn't say no concern. There definitely is a concern about map awareness and where the opponents are, but his main priority is just amplifying his farm, which I think makes total sense on a hero like Wraith King. And the other half to this equation that I don't want to completely ignore is the fact that his mid laner makes an insane amount of space, right? If we look at the last hits, he has 163, and not that the 86 of the Slark is low, it's not. In fact, it's relatively high compared to Gunka, which is a bit surprising, but he is constantly diving. First luck on the Slark this game, just look at this play here. Constantly diving, over and over again. I don't even know what he's doing, to be honest. But he just does not stop. And what this does is it forces reactions from newbie. Whether or not, they're going to kill him, it's going to create tension. It's going to create issues. And you notice the enemy carry is TPing in now. He's coming to the fight, right? He's not farming. And if you think this is worth it because he gets a single, AA kill, and it's not. It's simply not. Because if we look at the other side of the map, my boy Hector is just hitting grapes. He's just hitting grapes. And I think this is the main thing I saw with Infamous over and over again that I really like. And it's something I actually see within OG as well, where Topson is constantly diving over and over again. And as a result, Ana gets free farm. Now, in terms of item build, Hector always does the same thing. He always goes for the phase boots, Midas, Radiance, and then he upgrades a wand, right? He had a stick previously. He upgrades a stick into a wand and buys a blade mail every single game without exception. I think he believes this is just way too good of a build to pass up on, so I guess you can go with 2. Alright, so now let's take a look at a team fight. Wraith King is definitely not a hero where you're going to see any flashy plays, but we'll just pay attention to his target priority. So you notice he runs in here, obviously no fear. This is a good thing to do on Wraith King, right? Just create a bit of chaos, force some spells out potentially. And then he manages to kind of stay with his team, and this I like. Just him kind of staying back and helping out his supports it's a play that I'm a big fan of because it really allows, your team to not get picked off and your supports to get focused by someone like a lifestealer. Then he proceeds to go forward, hitting the support, which, I'm always a big fan of, killing supports first. Honestly, I really would love to say that there's something crazy flashy, but for Wraith King, it's really about trying to tank some damage for your team. And, considering that idea of sticking with your supports so that they don't get picked off by backliners. Because a main thing about Wraith King is that he can get kited. Even with this Radiant spell, there is potential for him to get kited. So if you stay kind of tight-knit with your supports, obviously not if they have an Echo Slam, but relatively close to them and protect them, not only are you going to soak damage, but you're going to protect, these squishy supports on your team. Just real quickly before we move on, this is right after the fight. It's very important to note that even when it gets into the mid game and you feel like you hit your timing, that you're still farming. You cannot stop. You have to keep going. You notice he still is making TP plays to amp his efficiency. It will never stop. The whole game, he's making efficiency TP plays. Okay, so this is going to be the last engagement of the video, and it's an interesting one because right off the bat, he gets his reincarnation popped. Really, he didn't have much of a good option. He gets gone on, tanks some spells. You could be like, okay, baited out Splitter, got Rage, got Meteor, got EMP, so not bad. And then what does he do next? He actually pops his BKB a bit early here, and as a result, he has to back up, right? Reincarnation is not up. And I think a lot of players might have gotten caught out trying to run in and help here, but you notice he's being very patient. You can't overreact in fights when you don't have Reincarnation or BKB. It might sound simple, but it really is important. It is important to just respect your cooldowns. And because he respects his cooldowns, you notice that this happens where he's able to pick up, hit the Kunkka kill with his Radiance, and then last second get his Reincarnation, which allows them, to keep their Wraith King alive, at least for now. And he manages to walk away. So hopefully you see the point about keeping your cooldowns up there. It allows them to force more buybacks, and once again, keeping the net worth up. Him not dying, big part about Hector's gameplay. And that's the last thing I actually want to say This is just a side note before we end the video. I was on Twitter and I tweeted this talking about Hector. Like, how does he farm so fast? How is this possible? And one of my friends said, who's also a top immortal carry player, that it's due to his ability never to die. He almost never has any mid-game deaths, and I think a lot of that comes down to him just playing very defensive. He almost always pushes out lanes with skeletons and never shows his main hero. So try not to die, guys. Might sound simple, but use the efficiency plays I've talked about throughout this video. Avoid the enemy heroes at all costs, and enjoy your MMR. Tired of being sandbagged by your team? At GameLeap.com, we have pro guides covering some of the best heroes in the game to solo carry your ranked games, as well as, of course, specifically covering the carry role. Hit the link on screen right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.